All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you could join us on this rumbly evening. We are here today for one of our Hispanic Heritage programs. We're speaking today with someone who is very influential in the world of BookTok. We're joined today by Ms. Carmen Alvarez, and she's going to be telling us all about hyping Latinx books on social media and beyond. So we're super excited to have her here. My name's Lisa. I'm with the Tampa-Hillsborough County Public Library, and we're here for an excellent program this evening. Ms. Carmen, I'm going to let you take it away here in just a sec.
Hi, everyone. My name's Carmen. Welcome tonight. I am a Latinx book influencer on TikTok and Instagram and a few other social media platforms. I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about myself first, and then I'll tell you about what it's like to be a book influencer. So I actually am born and raised in Tampa. My parents are Cuban immigrants, and I spent a lot of my childhood not seeing myself in the pages of books, but not realizing that that was something that I should demand. It was only as an adult that I realized that that was something I should do. I actually started my book influencing days on Instagram, and I actually was a blogger first with one of my very best girlfriends. And she kind of got busy with life, so I kind of kept going with it. And I mostly just took photos of books and did Instagram. And then a few years ago, TikTok really came into the world of book influencing, and BookTok seemed to have taken over. So I took a stab at it since I had played with some of the Instagram Reels features, and my TikTok now has over 38,000 followers, and I just hit 20,000 followers on Instagram. So it is by no means an overnight success. Books are something that I love, but it is something that a lot of people in social media don't go to look for. So it's very much a labor of love to do this book influencing kind of work.
I love it. It's always great to see so many people just represented in all the ways that they should be. So that's very exciting. We might be joined here by my colleague here shortly. Ms. Becky Greer is about to pop on. We have very rumbly weather in Tampa, so some of us have been losing our connection here. So if one of us blinks out during this program, we will do our best to be right back. So hang tight on that. But yeah, I love seeing this. I love seeing the representation in Hispanic heritage. It's always a great occasion to highlight, especially some of our very local book influencers.
Yeah.
Speaking of local and books, I'm going to pop over to our next slide here and give you a couple of our resources that we have at the library. So we always love to highlight not only local content creators and folks, but of course some of our ebooks. So we have two ebooks listed here: Celebrity 2.0 by Stacy Landreth Grau and Hacks for TikTok 150 Tips and Tricks for Editing. So those are two fun books that you might want to check out if you're looking at maybe getting into this yourself. So in addition to what you learned from Carmen today, these are some fun resources, and they're available for free on Hoopla right now. Well, and I see we have Becky on the line. Becky, hey, nice to see you.
Oh, glad I finally got in.
Nice to see you, Becky.
Good to see you too, Carmen.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for these book recommendations. I'm a huge library supporter, of course, and I'm always so grateful. You guys always come up with the best and most interesting and diverse book recommendations. So lots of love from a big library reader to you guys for putting this together and for giving the viewers this recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go about this book influencing talk by telling you a little bit about my story of how I started. So I'd referenced earlier, I had started on Instagram, which was the big place where a lot of people were talking about books. It's called Bookstagram, is the major hashtag, and Instagram is most searchable by those hashtags. They're now kind of moving towards keyword searching because a lot of these social media platforms want to be places where people go to look for knowledge and look for information. But back then, when I started about 7 years ago, that was not available. So I actually found the hashtag and started posting about books. Now, the great thing about Instagram and all social media is that having your own personality and your own voice is what is most treasured by the community. So when I first started, I actually, I was trying to follow the trends and ask the questions of the day. And I was trying to learn as I moved along, I guess you could say. And, we all fail and learn at the same time and get better at things. And took a little bit of time, but I was finally able to kind of find what I was most comfortable doing. The nice thing about talking about books online is that you can just post a stack of books. You can just post a photo of your bookshelf. You can just post a photo of your library book if you get it from the library. And voila, you are bookstagramming, you are book talking. And it doesn't take much else outside of that. The TikTok side, of course, there's more nuance to videos and things like that. But, all it takes is, a love of books and being able to talk about books, whether it's reviews or giving recommendation lists. There's all sorts of ways that you can influence others to, read the books that you love. And, as with anything, you begin at the bottom and you work your way up. A great way that I've learned to make my voice heard is to have friends in the book community who amplify my voice, if you will. So making friends is always easy because if you love a book, someone quickly becomes your best friend, and those best friends actually might become your best friends in real life. So that's a little bit about the general aspects of Instagram and TikTok and kind of finding your community. One of the things that I found as part of being part of this bookish community is that I very quickly realized how few books, like you see a lot more books that are out in the world as an influencer. And what I started realizing was I started looking for Cuban or Cuban American authors that weren't like Jose Marti or someone who wrote classical literature. I was like, who can I support that's writing books now? And that was a pretty tough question, especially when I started doing my Instagram 7.5 years ago at this point. There weren't really as many authors. And there is a publishing company called Lee and Low Books. And in 2018, they published a diversity in children's literature study that they had done. And as it turns out, less than 6% of published books for children, this information that I know of is not available for adult literature, but less than 6% of books published for children are by Latinx authors. And considering we're pushing 20% of the population, give or take, I was like, that seems like it's very underrepresented in publishing. And, the same goes for books published by Black authors, by Asian authors. Like, there's not as much diversity in publishing as you would be led to think. And they publish those studies they publish those studies about every other year. And the statistics from, I think I've seen 3 of them now, aren't getting better with representation. So I am a little bit of a, let's call it a contrarian, and I don't like to go with the flow. And so one of the things seeing that information and that data made me do was to make my page represent me and to kind of make people that are unrepresented in publishing like the forefront of what I feature. So, I really do, I say this on TikTok all the time. I shout about Latinx and BIPOC authors, and BIPOC meaning Black, Indigenous, and person of color. Those are my main focus on my channel, and that's what I really want to talk about. And that's what I make kind of the bullhorn of what I do, but it's very interesting because I will, let's say, go and peruse at Barnes and Noble, and I'll look at their TikTok table. And while I think I'm making this big difference in what I'm doing, I still don't see a lot of books by Latinx authors or BIPOC authors represented on those tables. And so, like, more and more, it makes me want to talk about representation in the industry and what what we can do to come together to write those books. So part of my book influencing journey has definitely become um, advocacy. I don't know that that's necessarily for everyone, but it's something that feels right to me to do and that I really enjoy doing. So being a voice and helping to amplify the voices of my Latinx community is a huge thing for me. And I have met, by the way, as a postscript of the looking for myself in the pages of books, I have met a number of Cuban American female authors, a lot of whom like live in Florida, which I think is a great coincidence as well. And I've helped the library now with their Teen Lit Festival, and some of those authors have been part of that. So I've found different ways of the advocacy that I wanted for myself, and like including it in other things that are bigger than social media. Um, so some of my favorite authors that are Cuban American women, Chanel Acevedo, Nina Moreno, Chantel Clayton is amazing. She writes like this romantic historical fiction. So I have found a lot of authors that represent me, and it's been this very emotional journey because I feel almost badly for like little Carmen who never thought she had to be the hero of a book. And then it makes me think like maybe something that I'm doing now could lead to someone else seeing themselves on the pages of books and like knowing and wanting to be the hero of their stories. So that's a big part of what drives me to do the work that I do, and to be online and talk about these books in particular and representation. But a lot of people, when they go into their book influencing journey, they just, they read the most popular books. And that's what I was doing. I was reading Leigh Bardugo and Sarah J. Maas and all these authors that are so big now that were big back then even. I found my way in my reading journey and in what I want to represent. I also read a lot more now, so maybe I am still reading some of these same authors, but being an influencer, excuse me, being an influencer also means you get to choose what goes on your page. So maybe I am reading some of that stuff in the background, but what I'm choosing to talk about is these Latinx books and these books by BIPOC authors. So you can make your space what you want, which is a very unique and fun part of this journey for sure. And I will say that book influencing can take time, writing book reviews or coming up with like a themed stack, keeping your bookshelves clean so you can take a photo in front of them. Like all these things take time. So I also want to say that you should find balance in doing book influencing, because these algorithms will definitely want you to work hard and do a lot on their apps so that they can sell like ad space and revenues and things like that. So I also want to remind everyone to be mindful of having kind of this influencer life balance, because it can become very overwhelming very quickly, and and you may all of a sudden like that's all you're doing, and like you may not even realize that it's snuck up on you. So definitely be mindful of the time that you spend on the app. Definitely make friends, because I can't tell you how many like book clubs I've joined and how many different ways there are to interact with the community. And it's this whole group of people, like so many of us are like, we're so glad we found each other, because no one I know in real life reads as much as I do or reads this particular genre. And so having that kind of feedback and human element of it really makes it quite rewarding. So that's all I have prepared to talk about. I'm more than happy to answer any specific questions or anything that you guys may have.
And I just want to say, I love it. Representation so clearly matters. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have right now. There are a lot of dark sides to social media, but the fact that we can really create a space for everyone is just, it warms the heart, but yet in a not cheesy way, it really does. I love that we're able to create these spaces for ourselves and each other.
Absolutely.
The spaces that we wished we had when we were kids.
Yeah, I'm glad that that kids can find a way to advocate for that space for themselves and to explore their identities and things like that, because we didn't have that. We just we just had the playground and my cousins and my friends. You know what I mean? It's like we didn't have this whole community that I could find online. So it's really cool that kids can do that.
All right, looks like we have a question here. And they ask if you can describe your photo editing process.
Sure. So this goes back to what I was saying before, which is not everyone is as involved as I am. A lot of my photos are like collages that I kind of put together from like the cover of a book, and I'll incorporate myself into it. So I will use apps such as Snaptic, PixArt, Bazaart. There's probably a few other ones I'm not thinking of right now. But I'll use different apps that are available for free, or that you can use most of the functions for free, or pay a subscription if you want. I mean, a lot of them it's not worth it. At one point I had like 10 free apps, and each of them had like one thing that I like to use. So the photo would get saved like 10 different times as I'm going through all the apps. So, I just kind of put them together until I think they're pretty. Like the photo of me here, it's just a regular one in front of these bookshelves when they were nice and organized, which they no longer are anymore. And I just added in some I like to add stars in the background or flowers and things like that to make things cute. So that's kind of generally it. And, you have to make sure your photo is well lit is probably the best thing. And then from there, whatever you choose to add or however you choose to edit, that's totally just whatever aesthetic you want it to be.
All right, we have a question here asking if you can talk about the books that you've written.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have not written a book per se, although
I'm sure that the posts added up will probably equal a book.
Yes, I'll be completely transparent. I don't think you can spend this much time in the space and not be looking for, a space within publishing. And while I'm not completely advocating for myself, there are 2.5 book outlines that I have right now. So, it could happen. It very much could happen. Yes, yes, yes. I'm nowhere near even ready to talk about them, but yes, it is something that's on the back burner for me. And trust me when I say I would want the library to have an event for me if I ever do publish a book.
hcplc.org/local author. We do have a specific avenue for that to happen.
Perfect. Perfect then.
All right, and I see another question here. What are some of your favorite books for this year?
Oh gosh. Okay. So one of my favorite authors is Sylvia Moreno Garcia. She's Mexican Canadian author, and she had a book that just published earlier this year called The Daughter of Dr Moreau, and it's so good. So it's this retelling of the Isle of Dr Moreau, which I never read, and I have like no interest in reading. Like you don't have to have read that book to read this book, but it's told from Dr Moreau's daughter's perspective. And it takes place on the Yucatan Peninsula, and she goes from being this very sheltered, polite woman into being like this. I don't want to spoil it, but she takes a journey, and it is fantastic. And there's all these like colonialist themes and feminist themes. It's just, it's chef's kiss, if you will.
There's definitely a coming into herself.
Definitely, definitely. I recommend it to everyone. It's probably in my top 3 of Sylvia's books. Absolutely. Let's see. I always have a hard time remembering. I read a book called, it's by Crystal Maldonado, called, and it's her second book, and I want to like turn around and look. Oh goodness, I can't remember what it's called now.
I know which one you mean. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, the
me
girl
too.
with the camera on the front cover. And that book was really great YA because it's about a girl who kind of catfishes one of her friends. No Filters and Other Lies, I think is the title of it.
That sounds good.
It is about a young girl who kind of catfishes one of her friends, and she has to deal with the fallout from it. And it was like one of the most realistic YA books I had read in a long time. Like it was very cringy, like what happens and how it happens, but like there's consequences and things. And Crystal's a great writer. Her first book was so good. And I thought that this book was a very strong second book. Like I've been recommending it to so many people. And then I'll give you a third one. I'm sorry, I have to turn around and look. Oh, and then a memoir, The Man Who Could Move Clouds by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. She has this picture, speaking of Instagram, where she shows her outlining process of the book, literally from a napkin with like an idea, a line, and the ending idea. And then she keeps breaking out the outline until she literally takes the book and cuts it up and like recreates the book like line by line. And she's a poet, so I think that her grasp of the English language is just tremendous. And it's a story about her grandfather. Her and her mother have a shared dream about going to get his remains in Colombia. And it's about like, he was he was like a magical like healer in his community. And it's about his life, her mother's life, her life, and all these parallels between them. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And she just got long listed for the National Book Award. So this is a book you're going to be seeing everywhere. It's excellent. It's fantastic.
All right, let's see if we have any more questions here. Ms. Becky, did you see any?
Yes, another question about books. How do you find out about upcoming books that are going to be released? Yeah.
I can't recommend having friends who know your taste in books to tell you, because no matter how much research you do to find books, you will miss them. They will completely miss you. I mean, I'm sure you know, as librarians, like, you know, there's so many books. I think I read somewhere it's like 58,000 books a year are traditionally published, and it's like there's just no way you would know that. Having friends tell you where to find them, for sure. Oh no.
I find it's really helpful to follow, like, if you follow the authors that you already know that you like, if you follow them on social media, you'll end up getting a lot of recommendations through them, the authors that they like, and they tend to keep up with each other for cross-promoting each other's current events. But yeah, I'm sure she'll agree with that, in addition to, you know, having friends who read similarly to you to keep up with. Yeah, follow the authors that you enjoy on social media is a good way to cross promote. And then of course there's always the new release list at the library on the library website for the various age groups, the staff picks and whatnot.
I mean, I can mention our for Hispanic Heritage Month, we do have our bookmark and poster contest. So if people are interested in joining that, it is for grades K through 12.
Yeah, there's different age groups. There's kindergarten through second grade, third through fifth grade, sixth through eighth, and then ninth through 12th are the different age groups for that contest. And some of them are for bookmarks, some of them are for posters. So yeah, definitely check those out. All that's going to be on our Hispanic Heritage landing page, hcplc.org/Hispanic Heritage. Well, Becky, I think we've lost Carmen for the evening, but fortunately we are near the end of our program anyway, so I'm so sorry that we're not going to get to say goodbye to her on camera, but we did at least get a lot of that good information from a local Bookstagram, TikTok bookfluencer.
Yes, and if people are interested in contacting her, they can reach her on TikTok and on Instagram at Tomes and Textiles. That's TOMES and Textiles.
It's been good to see you, Miss Becky, and the folks at home. It's been good to see you on the webinar. We'll hope to see you again soon. And yeah, fill out those surveys. Let us know how we did. You can reach us anytime at hcplc.org/contact or at 813-273-3652. We will see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Good night.